Hello and welcome. My name is Kaye Vlachos from soul-to-soulwellness.com.au, and I'm really excited to be chatting with internationally renowned psychic medium Katy-K today. Welcome, Katy. Thanks for joining me for this chat.
Thanks for inviting me. It's so lovely to be here with you.
I'm really excited to be chatting to you because we're talking about topics that I am obsessed about, I guess, is the word. And so I wanted to bring you on today, invite you on to chat to you about what is a psychic. And so how about we start there? What is a psychic and what do you do?
Okay, so to start with, psychics and mediums are different. So a psychic will talk to your soul and get the information from you. And a medium will talk to the spirit world and bring in loved ones, friends. A psychic, everyone has that energy and has that power, but mediumship, I'm told, are born. So it's born into you. And I know that everyone is psychic, but not everyone will acknowledge it. Skeptics won't believe it, so therefore it won't exist, and everything will be written off as a coincidence. And they don't notice synchronicities as much, and they tend to be not even open to it. So it can, and that's their choice, and they're quite able to do that. A lot of psychics start to open up in their 40s. A lot are born, everyone's born with it, but a lot of them are born using it from childhood, and there may be an event that shuts them down. It might be that they're not supported, or the people around them don't want them to do it. There can be many reasons, but generally they don't know what it is because there's no one to tell them if they're not surrounded by people that know that. They think the child's heard it somewhere, and they find it hard to explain. Generally, most people, though, that do know about psychic powers will be excited about it. They will take it on. They will want to use it. They just won't realize to the extent how to look after it. And I found that as well, because I go to the Arthur Findlay College in England to train, and I've been doing that for more than 10 years. But as a child, I shut my gifts down because I had a stepdad that used to call me a bleep bleep know-all because I knew so much. And he was a lovely man, but he was of science. He was an engineer. Numbers meant everything to him. He didn't really understand that side. And my mother's a psychic, and she'd drop little pearls of wisdom and premonitions. And I think one psychic in the family was enough, let alone a young child, telling him, "Hey, Dad, I think this is going to happen." So that was really hard for him. And he remained a skeptic until close to the end of his life. And I'd visit him at hospital, and he started to trust what I had and what I'd give him. And that was lovely. It was acknowledgement. I remember we were watching a TV show, and he asked me to choose who I thought was going to be evicted, say. Or no, it was the boxes with the numbers on, which box had the money in. And Mum said, "I'm psychic, I think it's this number." And I said, "No, I'm going to go with this one." And I said, "Dad, which number are you picking?" He says, "I'm going with you." And I had the right box. Mum would have normally got the right box, but she was just beside herself with grief that he was dying.
Mm-hmm.
And that does affect your powers because it's something you need to focus on. People think I walk around turned on all day, spouting wisdom and looking, and I don't. It uses energy. And people don't want you looking into their business 24/7. That's like going through their underwear drawer and finding things. It's one of the rules I teach you shouldn't do, yet a lot of people do. And so by going to that place to do my work, that energy and bringing it in and turning it on, I then protect my energy. And then at the end, I say thank you to whoever I've been talking to, and I bless them, and I ask any family members that have lingered that it's time for them to go, because my husband doesn't like it when they stay here moving our things. And I then go on with my normal life. The people that don't understand how it works, an example would be I might be at a party and everyone's around and someone will say, "Oh, you're that psychic." And I'll go, I wasn't going to announce it. And I said, "Yeah." And all of a sudden, all the cheating spouses will disappear. There's no one left there anymore because they all think I'm going to look into what's happening and then tell everyone. But you don't do that. And everything you get and every communication or client that comes to me, it all remains zipped up. Because within 5 minutes of them leaving, I remember nothing. It's all gone.
How do you know what information to share and what information to keep to yourself?
I tell them right at the start that I'm not the tragic psychic, and I've asked never to see when someone's going to die. I don't think it serves a purpose. I do believe the spirit world doesn't have time like we do. They're not worried about time. They don't need to worry about it. And so that stops the client from asking me. Doesn't mean to say I don't get the feeling that it's happening, but it's not my job to deliver that information. I work a lot with cancer patients or people that are unwell, and especially in their last days, somehow they find their way to me, and I do all that for free. And depending on how close they are to me, my PA knows that if they ring and they need to see me, we'll find a spot straight away for them and I will go and do that. So the other side of it is you get to know their families, and it is quite sad. You end up at a lot of funerals, but that's the support. And it's really funny. You often see them as if you're lucky enough to be there at the time, transition out of their body. And I know when my dad did, I felt the shift. I wasn't even looking because I was filling out the hospital menu so my mother could have a meal instead because he couldn't eat. And I felt this shift. And when I turned around to look, there he was standing beside his body as if he was 30 years old. Mm. And when he was young and healthy and vibrant, and he smiled at me, and I raced over, and my mother was talking to my sister, and I said, "Dad's gone." And they're going, Mum's going, "No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. He's still breathing." And I'm saying, "No, he has gone." And I raced over to take his pulse, and he was just watching the whole thing. And I feel blessed that I could, do that and see that. But when it comes to everyone being psychic, everyone is different in their gifts. You can't compare them because it's like comparing, say, a doctor with a hairdresser. We need both of them, but they bring different things to our life, different skills. You can't compare an electrician with a plumber. Maybe they could do each other's job to a certain degree, depending on how talented they are. And just like all hairdressers, there's different skills. We've all had that bad haircut. And sometimes that's an opinion because you didn't get what you wanted. But different levels come into play. And so the first thing I noticed when I went to the Arthur Findlay College, I didn't even know if I was meant to go. There was a lot of synchronicities that led up to that point. And I took the 2 weeks that I had free in my diary. That wouldn't be an inconvenience to my children and my husband. And when I got over there, the first thing that happened was it's this big hall that's really haunted. And they've even got a photograph there that's got a tree. And every time I go there, I swear there's a new face in it. It's almost, I don't know, but the photograph is of a tree that's down the back. And this big hall used to be a hospital in the wartime and had been converted to that. And the owner of the hall had a psychic medium that he really believed in and trusted. And he was an amazing medium. And he left the hall to the spirituality church. And it was for the use to train psychics and mediums. So it's actually a center that you go to, but nothing has changed. When they replaced the curtains, they replaced them with the same red velvet. And I went, okay. because they're keeping it like that. But I had a tutor who I Googled him, and I'd found him doing an example where he pulled out a number out of a box, and those numbers had been given out to people when they checked their coats in, because it was in Europe. And he picked the number out, and he stood with his back to the audience. And this was a full theatre, you know, hundreds of people. And he pulled out the number, and he could connect to that person's family and tell them everything. And I thought, well, this guy's good. So when the first thing when you get there is you got shown to your room, and it was very old. And then you get interviewed. And this is more than 10 years ago, and they've changed a lot of things. And he looked at me. He had to be interviewed prior to the day starting. And he says, well, okay, this is a beginner's intermediate class. Where are you? Are you a beginner or intermediate? And he was quite scary. And I said, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm meant to be here. And he looked at me, and he looked over my shoulder and looked back at me and then over my shoulder. And he says, you're an intermediate, and I'll see you in the library at 3:00. And I was just stunned. And I went, oh, where's the library? And he looked at me as if to say, you're asking a dumb question. He says, it's behind me, that door there. And I went, oh, okay. And so that whole week was very tense. And when I went in that day, he looked at the whole room, and they have about 14 in each class. And he looked around, and we're in a circle, and he's sitting there, and I'm practically opposite him. And he says, right, you all think you're psychic mediums, or I know you're psychic mediums. And because of that, you're all going to get a connection. Don't get the same one. There's plenty of dead people in my life. Bring them through, and I want you to tell me their age, their name, a name if you can get it, significance. And he went through a long shopping list that you had to do. And they've stopped doing that now because it's very robotic doing it that way. And in my head, I went, how am I going to do that? And I started looking at the windows because they're really low, thinking, I wonder if I can escape at some time. And I'm thinking that everyone would see it. I thought I could go and hide in the toilet. I was really scared. And he says, and we're going to start with you. And he chose the person beside him. And when they went out, he got them to stand on the rostrum, and he said, right, off you go. And they'd had him before, and they were used to him, and I was really new. And some of them were new too, and they found it really hard. And he was a bit of his way of teaching was to bully you. And I realize now I needed it at that time. But by the end of the week, I had a migraine. I was living in fear that he would choose me, and would it happen? And I didn't have trust. And I didn't even believe in me. But I needed answers, and I thought I would get answers at the best place. And so they went through, and he'd say things like, hurry up. What are you taking your time for? You've either got a connection or you haven't. And it was really frightening. And when he said, okay, we're all going for dinner now. And I went, okay, he hasn't got me, and there's another 3 people to go. I'm going to be fine. And went to dinner, and I'm sitting there, and I'm meeting all these people, and they're saying hello, and they're talking all things psychic and medium. And I'm just sucking it all in and thinking, this is so wonderful. And then we went back into the room, and he didn't go to the next person. He went straight to me. And he says, right, your turn next. And I'm about to say, well, what about them? I need more time, because he said, you're going to close. And I'm going, I don't even know what close is. And then I went up to the stage area where you had to stand, and everyone's looking at you. And the ones that have made mistakes are sort of going, well, I hope she doesn't show me up somehow, because you're not meant to have an ego, but a lot of them do. And so I'm standing there, and he says, right, off you go. And I'm thinking, is something going to happen? I'm just standing here. What's going to happen? And nothing happened. And I'm thinking, well, what am I going to do in my head? He says, come on, you've either got a male or a female. Which one is it? You've got a 50-50 chance of getting it right. And I said, I've got a male. Just popped out of my mouth. And then he said, well, get on with it. We haven't got all day. And it was about 8 o'clock at night at that stage. And I was getting tired because this was mentally draining. And I'm standing there and I actually closed my eyes and I said, if this is going to work, you better make something happen in that soon. In fact, make it happen now or I'm out of here. I just don't belong. And at that point, something came over my body and it went like that. So I figured I've had a stroke. So I said, this is a gentleman. And in my head, I got grandfather, but not a grandfather. I said, this gentleman had a stroke. He was like a grandfather, but he wasn't your grandfather. He says, well, either he is or he isn't. I said, that's what I got. He says, well, go on then. And I went on with the whole thing and I brought through memories about him walking through the park with a cane and all the things, you know, little things about his life. And I said, you used to drive him out to the country for healing because he wasn't well. And I went through more details about it. And then he says, okay, good, sit down. And I said, well, who is it? He said, he pointed up to the painting. And this was someone that was high up to do with the college. He says it was him. He was like a grandfather, but he wasn't. And I used to take him for drives and then he confirmed the things. He says, all right, sit down. And then he moved to the next one. And in my head, I went, holy hell, how did I do that? And can I do it again? And that was when, you know, the further I got on, people would say to me, oh, you all know how to ground and protect yourself. So surely you've done this by now. We'll just move on. And I'm thinking, what's ground and protect? I've always lived somewhere where there was no courses, there was no Google, there was no anything to learn. And I shut down as a child, but then reopened in my 40s. And it was something I couldn't, it wasn't even my 40s, actually, it was my 20s. I couldn't hold it back, but I went professional in my 40s. Prior to that, I had an art of saying things and turning them into a conversation, let the person know, because if they had a loved one there, they wouldn't go away until I acted on it. And I didn't know that rule about not asking unless you're told to. We all make rookie mistakes in the beginning. And this is what I teach now, because I had tutors that would look at you with disdain if you didn't know the basics. And I didn't like that. And I had this desire to teach one-on-one because I'd read about a psychic in a book and she had taught one-on-one. And I thought, that's what I want. But I couldn't afford to have someone devote their time to me. They wanted $200-300 an hour. And so I decided I'd be that one that would be open to others. And I started off at $50 an hour and I'd sit there and teach them. And they loved it. It was all about them. And as I progressed, I couldn't fit everyone in and I was doing the same thing over and over again, teaching the same stuff. And so I ended up turning it into online courses, which freed me up to do more readings because my readings cost more than my lessons. And I end up with a mentor that said, why are readings a third of the price of what you charge? Sorry, lessons a third of the price of what you charge for a reading. And I said, well, they are. And they said, but your hour is worth the same, no matter who you're teaching. And that's when I decided I would turn it into online classes because I didn't want to do that to students. And I moved forward. So, and at the college, the next week, because I was there for 2 weeks, was amazing. And I had tutors that were, they had been teaching for decades. And, we covered tarot, we covered reading in water, we had to read a bowl of sand, we had to read with colour, read with ribbons. There were so many different things we had to do. And I could do all of them. And there was one student in the class that was getting really, I don't know if you'd call it jealous or envious, but she was getting quite short. And I would have to present what I had. And she said, of course you can do that. And I thought, why would you say that? And so then when it came to reading the water, I said, I'm not getting anything. I don't think I can do this. And she was happy. I thought, this is not right. Anyway, so I just let them all believe I couldn't read in water and it wasn't my strength. And I had a wonderful week and it gave me the basics to make more courses to teach everyone else. And these two ladies were lovely. It was the first time they were doing this course. So it was really, really good. And many years later, you know, here I was putting all this information into courses that I'd been teaching. And when I was doing readings, I just bring the energy in and it comes out of my mouth. And you asked, how do you know what to say and what you don't? Well, you look at it as, what would you like to hear from someone? Would you want to hear that? And I'll say in my head, no. If I pick up someone's husband, say, having an affair, I won't say anything, but I would say, you need to spend more time with your husband so that she gets to spend so much time so he can't be so active, right? And the reason I do that is, if I was to say, hey, your husband's having an affair, if she didn't know, she would go, no, that's not possible, and not believe me. Next step she'd go and ask her husband. Of course, he's not going to, say, yes, I'm having an affair. He'll say nothing. But if they're, and so then I'm discredited. But if they say to me, I think my husband's having an affair, then I'll confirm it. Because I'm not the person to be doing that. Other psychics might, but I've believed that there's so much you can cover in their life that you don't have to be negative the whole reading. My job is to give you tools for you to be able to see the direction, help you to understand where you're at, and give you options. You can stay on this path or you can go onto this path. And so, when I first started reading, I write on the page their name. And their Christian name is about the essence of them. And their surname is the where they're at right now. And then I will look at that name, and energy will come in and words will form, and I'll write them all down. And then I'll scan their health and I'll write all that down, what vitamins and minerals they need. And the reason I know what vitamins and minerals they need is I had studied that. And the information, if I say they ask about a place and I might not know the name, I'm not going to get the name. There's no reference for me. Sometimes I'll be talking to them and I'll see someone I know in front of me and I'm thinking, what are they doing there? And I'll say, oh, is your grandmother's name Linda? Because it's Linda I'm looking at. And they'll go, yes. So the spirit world talks in many different ways. You've got all your clairs. And so that in that point, when I'm seeing someone, I'm using my clairvoyance. A lot of people say they're clairvoyant and I'll say, oh, so you see. Clear seeing is what clairvoyant means. And they go, no. And I say, well, you're not a clairvoyant then. Doesn't mean you're not a psychic, but you're not using that strength. Doesn't mean they can't use that strength. They've just got to spend time developing it. And you learn how to do that at college. So I've been rabbiting on, so I better let you ask a question.
No, I love it. I feel like you're answering the questions that are in my mind, which makes sense, right?
That's great. They're the questions a lot of people ask me all the time.
Yeah, and I just want to be able to hold space for you to share what needs to come through. And I always trust that what needs to be said is said, and just trust in that the message that you're sharing is here to help one of the listeners or one of our viewers always, which is beautiful.
Okay, well, getting back to when I write down all their vitamins, I say to them when I deliver the information, I'm not a doctor, but I get what vitamins and minerals will enhance your life. It's up to you whether you take them. You can find them in your food or you can take a supplement. It's your call. And then I'll deliver what I get. And I've scanned their body and I'll say, you've got a tooth missing up the back here. And they'll say, yes, and it'll go from there. I get to feel their aches and pains as I'm writing them all down, and then they go. And then I'll go, what's happening in their life? And say, for example, one I did yesterday, I told them that they had a business that went in 3 directions. I told them I saw packing boxes and then I see for the last 6 months and the next 2 years. And so there has to have been that you're making a move or someone, or you're moving someone out. Because sometimes the packing boxes, they're getting rid of a husband or a flatmate. And I'll say, but I do feel you're going to make a move. Can you confirm that it has happened already? And they say, oh, I moved 2 months ago. And it goes through like that. And I teach my students the first part of the reading should be you proving yourself. How can they believe anything if you can't tell them something that they already know? Telling them all about the future, things they can't prove, and they've got to wait time to happen, does not mean that you can be taken seriously.
And there's a certain level of confidence you have to have in the information that's coming through for you.
Yes.
And trust that what is meant to be said is meant to be said, and to not deliver the information as a form of a question.
Exactly. Right? And that does happen. I'll make a statement first, and like I see some packing boxes, there's going to be a move. And I see for the past 6 months, next 2 years, if you haven't had it, it's coming. Mm-hmm. I've had someone where I told them they need to be careful of their knee, and I wouldn't advise that they run. And they came back to me 6 months later, and because they said there's nothing wrong with my knee, and I said, okay, just think about it for the future. And they came back 6 months later before a knee surgery to ask me if the knee surgery was going to be fine. And again, I can only see what the spirit world wants the person to know.
Yes.
And some people think you can cover their whole history and their whole future in 45 minutes. And they'll go away, and then they'll come back and they might say, but you didn't tell me this was going to happen. And I said, I tell you what they think you need to know right this minute to get you on the right path.
I share the same information.
Yep. That's great. And that's how it should be. You know, what's the most important thing or crucial thing at the moment?
I love that you continue to develop and train, because I think a lot of people would think, well, don't you already know everything? So why is it important? Why has it been important for you to continually develop your ability to intuit?
When you're green, you're growing. When you stop, you rot. Can you imagine if you only went to grade 3 and said, I know enough now, I'm not going any further? You can't do that. There is infinite wisdom and knowledge out there. And the spirit world will teach you as long as you're willing to learn and listen. And I have students that compare themselves, and I say, you can't do that. I said, imagine you've got an older sibling that's 3 years older than you, and they've learned how to read and write. And then you go to school and you go, oh, I'm just not getting this. I'm not as good as my sibling, so therefore I'm going to give up. You don't get the option at school, and eventually you get to that person's level, but you don't catch up, because what you learn in grade 4 is different to grade 12, so you can't compare them. But when you get to grade 12, you've since learned, you know, that education, and then the sibling is still going further. And one sibling might be a great athlete, and the other one might be a bookworm or science-based. And we get back to that comparing the doctor and the hairdresser. And a lot of people do. We're all psychic in some way, and we'll all have different strengths. Some people are healers, and they go, I want to do all the other stuff. And I said, healing's far more superior. And they go, why? And I said, well, if you haven't got your health, you've got nothing. You can have all the money in the world. It's not going to get you anywhere. And so healing is very important. And when you're doing a psychic reading, that is a form of healing. You're helping to get them back up and running. You know, it's helping to empower people as well.
Yes, so and that's the idea, right? Is adding value and helping people to simplify perhaps what it is they need to focus on for right now, and helping them get some clarity.
It totally is. And, you know, when we look at oracle cards and tarot, they're very different. Tarot's 78 cards, and it follows a strict form. But it can be about, you know, tarot of cats, tarot of trees, ancient tarot. There's hundreds and hundreds. But an oracle deck can be a deck of guidance. It can be a deck of affirmations. It can be anything you want it to be, but it sort of virtually starts at about 20 cards and can go all the way up to 80. Any more than that, you can't handle it. And when I would do readings, people love to look at something. So they're watching me do what I do on the page, writing it all down before they can tell me anything. Because I ask them, I don't want you to say anything until I've proven myself. When you feel comfortable, ask me as many questions as you want. And if they're sitting there like this, I'll go, are you comfortable now? And they go, yeah. And I said, fire away. The more questions, the quicker you ask them, the quicker we can get through as many as we can. And so what I was doing is sometimes people are closed off. And, you know, when you do that, that's shutting people out. So I started asking them, don't let your hands touch in any way. Because when I'm working psychically, I've got to go from my heart to their heart to pick up whatever their soul is willing to release. And so I would then throw out some cards if they, you know, they weren't coming across so quickly. And I found that the cards didn't have everything. So I decided to make my own. And I made my first deck. And this one's called the Modern Oracle. And that's what I'm named at. I've got it trademarked. And I put it in a lovely magnetic flat box, put gold around it. And my guides told me it had to have 53 cards. And I sold 1,800 decks within probably 18 months.
Wow.
And they just went off. And people were going, I've never encountered anything like this. There's nothing else out there like it. Maybe now, since I've done it, but there wasn't. And in this deck, the reason I called it the Modern Oracle was we live in modern times. You know, one of my first decks was the fairy deck, and I love it. I didn't quite believe in fairies at that stage, but I loved it. It was really good. And I worked with it for years. And then I moved on to the map deck, and I created a whole course teaching it for others because it's very in-depth and not easy to read for some people. And some people are very literal. They take everything literal. They don't sort of stop to look and see the depth in it. So when I made this deck, it started off with, anything I thought was missing, I got a little deck of white cards, the size of a business card, and I would write what I wanted on that card. And eventually, because they'd said I had to have 53, I had 53 cards. And then I remember being in Thailand, and every time I got together with my sister, because her and her husband came as well, and we don't live in the same town, she would say, I need some answers. Can you do this? Can you tell me this? And so I'd get the little deck out, I'd start shuffling, because the thing when you read for loved ones and close people, not only do you think in your head, have they told me this? They think that as well. And so I remember when one of my sisters was pregnant, and I said, you're pregnant. She goes, did Mum tell you? How do you know that? And I said, because I know. I said, Mum didn't tell me. But if I threw out the pregnancy card, she went, oh, they know.
Yeah, it's proof.
It's proof. The other reason for the deck was I can't be objective if I'm reading for myself. If they tell me something and I don't want to, go, no, that's not happening. And I won't listen. But if the card comes out, I sort of have to listen. You know, if I'm reading for myself, I'm going to tell myself everything I want to know, and it's all going to be positive because I teach people to be positive. The cards, I found there's so many decks that don't tell life as it is. You've got to interpret it. They're really, really positive. So this first deck had things to cover every subject. So that one there is about study, or you could be signing a contract and you've got to check the fine print. I put travel in. Everyone wants to know, are they going to travel? Where they're going to go? And is it going to be successful? But I also put in negative cards. You know, that question mark says you're questioning something, or you're confused, or it could go many ways, but you've ground to a halt. This one here, what have you got? What do you see when you look at that picture? Tigers battling. And the water represents emotion. The emotions are flowing everywhere. And one of them's got the upper hand or upper paw. You look into the image and you can see so much. Now, that's a negative card. We don't want to hear about quarrel, strife, and conflict. But if it's surrounded by positive cards, then at the minimum, it's a conflict. I have to be in Perth, but I really want to go to a wedding in Sydney. That's conflict of interest type thing. But if you've got negative cards around it, the negative cards will tell a story. You've got to think of one card is a word. And unless you want a yes and no answer, you need to put more cards out to make the sentence.
I'm just thinking, would you like to use me as your test subject and
I
show
can use
people what you mean by putting the message together with the different
I
cards?
can. And
I will uncross my hands though.
That is good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to knock on these cards. And the reason I'm doing that is my intention that I've set is that it'll knock any previous energy out and knock yours in. So I'll say this reading is for Kaye, and the energy's gone in. And then I will say, give me a message for Kaye for her highest good. What does she really need to know right now coming up for her? And generally, I will pull 3 cards, especially if I'm answering a question. So I pull 3. And I'm going to pull 1 more. Okay, so the reason I pull 1 more is if you get a negative card, you have to turn it into a positive.
Yes.
Okay, you don't want to leave them with, oh, your life's crap, off you go.
Yes.
Can't do that. You've got to find a way out for them. And if you get a people card, you want to know what that person is about, what they're saying. So this was the first card that came out. And this tells me that for many years you were in the dark, but right now you're free to do what you want, when you want, and nothing's going to hold you back. See how you got the bird up there that's gone out of the cage, the cage door's open, and you're free because the bird is not reflected in the water. So not even the reflection's holding this person back, which is you. This second card says, have patience, we'll take time and don't rush in. Yep. So there's so much you want to do, but you just need to take your time. And this card here has got the word time on it. It's got an hourglass, which is about time. And all that sand, you know, the sand goes through the hourglass, that's more time. So there's infinite time now for you moving forward. And there is you. So we know this is about you. You're looking very glamorous.
Rocking it.
Yeah. When I had to do those images, you know, I found hot guys and tool belts and all that. But I couldn't put a woman looking dowdy. She had to look her best.
I also said to you that I don't dress up very often, and she's rocking it. She's got a beautiful dress on.
She's got class, she's got style, she's got everything going for her, and she's got a little bit of attitude too, which is great. But sometimes they turn up next to each other, and you didn't want her with the carpenter with hardly any clothes on, you know, bare chest. Yep. I mean, we could have given them hot eye candy, but no. So the male is dressed in a tux. And then we've got this communication, and this is my electronics card as well. So it's saying you're a communicator to others. This is also the card of the medium. And so if you wish to develop your mediumistic abilities, they're all there ready to go. But you already are hearing and seeing things. Yeah. And that's why this has come out. So the whole sentence here is, for a while you were trapped and didn't know which way you're going and what you're doing. It took a bit of time, but now you're free and you are communicating electronically as well, which is what this podcast is.
Yes, 100%.
So that tells you that. Now, these cards answer questions really directly, and I can ask a question. My son's got a music career, and he's hoping to get another single out by the end of the year. So I'll knock on this card, knocking my son's energy in, and then I'll shuffle it and I'll say, what does my son need to know to get his single out by the end of the year, his music? And when I choose a card, I just flick my finger like that till it stops. I don't go from the top or the bottom because, one, I can see the bottom, and that's not enough for me. So I'll go like that and I'll pull my first card. I'll go like that and I'll pull my second card, and I'll go like that and I'll pull my third card. Now, I got 2 negative cards. This one here says he's so stressed
Mm-hmm.
with the deadline he's got. And this is the card of frustration.
Mm.
He's worrying, he's frustrated, but he has to learn to trust. There's a golden opportunity there. See someone handing you a gold? And see, trust is the crystal ball is not sitting in the hand, it's floating above. So it could fall, but you're trusting it's not going to. You're trusting the magic in it. Now, because I've got two negative cards, and they can be confronting. You know, this card here, you look at what you see first. If you saw a hair on one side, it's a one-sided situation. If you saw all the grey, it's not a black and white situation. If you saw the steam coming out of her ears, it's saying she's reached boiling point. She can go no further. And so many other things in this card. And on my online courses, I show you all the different things you're going to find in the card. If she's feeling vulnerable, you'll notice that she's nude. You know, and we go further on. But you don't have to go into that deep because it's easy. So we've got these two negative cards. So I'm just going to pull them down, and I'm going to pull one to say, what do I need to know about the worry and stress? And then I'll say, what do I need to know about the frustration? Tell me more. And then I'll say, because I've got another negative card, why is there a trust issue? Okay. So we got this worry card. And on top of it was really good because this card here is the prayer of connection. You can use that prayer for hooking up to a crystal ball, for using a pendulum, for any readings you do. It's there and it works. But when it's in the deck, because it has to stay in the deck, this is the highest card, the most strongest card. And this card says the situation is blessed and what happens will happen for whatever reasons, but for your highest good. It's a karmic card. Okay. And the other thing is, if this card comes up with an angel card, it's called a double blessing, because this is the blessing card. So it's saying he's not to worry because he is blessed. This is a karmic journey. Then remember, we got this frustrated card, and I hope they're going in the right order, but this is one that's two. Things turn around the other way sometimes. And I got this card. He's frustrated because he's worried about being betrayed. And also something that looks really good. Look how good that apple looks, but looks what's holding his arm back from reaching it. So something's holding him back. And what's holding him back is the trust issue, because this is distrust and that's trust. And when you get those, when you get opposites like that, see the word trust and distrust?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's in two minds.
Mm.
You don't trust and you trust, different things. But he got that there on top of that. So I had to pull another one, right? So it looks too good, but it's being held back. He's frustrated. And I got the children card. Now, this is about taking the lead. See, there's a leading child. It's also a chakra card, because look at all those colors there in that kite. And it's saying, have fun with it, relax. That's what children do. Children are very blunt. They'll, if you don't do what they want, they'll say, I don't like you anymore. That's it. They think very black and white most of the time. So this is saying, have fun with it, relax, because it is a golden opportunity. And as soon as you trust, it's all going to just come out, because this is the card of the channel. When you hook up to your spirit guides, you're channeling. And my son channels all his music.
Mm.
So it tells you a lot of things. And this deck is, you know, there's a yes and no card. You can see a yes and no card. And it's very literal. You've hit a brick wall. You need to find another way.
And I think people like that clear direction. And for somebody that's new to their spiritual journey, on their spiritual path, these sort of cards are great to help you. It's a tool. I always explain it's a tool. You've already got it. You've already got the ability, but sometimes just that refocus or that one word or the picture will help you just to tune in a little deeper and connect for yourself, which is awesome. It
certainly does. And, you know, there's exercise cards. So that's a health question.
Yeah.
If you're asking a health question and this card comes up, you say, well, you need to do some exercise. You've got to motivate yourself a little bit. But if it came up with, am I going to buy the house? This card says, yes, it's going to happen really quickly because it's
Mm.
saying get moving.
Yep.
But if it was saying, is the money coming to me soon? Yes. Look, this is going so quickly and fast, but it also depends on what cards are around it because the story changes. Okay. So with each card, this one here, this is the koala card, and I love it. And it talks about safety and security and staying put, because if that little baby koala doesn't stay put, it can be in danger.
Mm.
It's so young. But if we were talking relationships, it can be anything from mother and child. It can be about a stage 5 Klingon. So maybe their partner doesn't let them out of their sight or give them any freedom. And I like to bring humor into my readings. So I will say things like, oh dear, that guy's a stage 5 Klingon. Do you really want that? Because it's up to them. They may need that in their life. But if this was a health card, it would tell you you need to eat more greens. See that?
Yeah.
And fiber and protein. Not that we're ever going to eat a koala. And you can choose your source of protein. So there's so much in them. And I did them in 2015. And then I was working on the Modern Oracle with animals. And my sister's a real, what I call an oily person. She loves aromatherapy and all the oils. And I decided my next deck, which I'd done in stages, you know, I got the messages over the Bahamas. I got the affirmations in another part of the world, because I was always traveling till I got grounded this year. And being grounded was good because I'm doing my book. I've got time to sit still, and it should be out by the end of the year. So I devised an aromatherapy deck, and it can be used 7 ways. It's got chakras. So you'll be pulling cards and you'll find chakras, and they're not an even number of colors either, not meant to be. The other aspect is that can be the essential oil. You can say, which essential oil will benefit me most right now? Or which one's for my highest good right now? Or what do I need? And it'll come up with the oil. So you could use that in your cooking, or you can diffuse it, whichever way that it gets used. So that's the second way. The third way is it has the 3 words up there that match in with the words on this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so because there's a matching card for every card in this deck, you can, when you work with both of them together, you can get the same card appear twice. And that means the universe is yelling it at you. They're emphasizing it.
Yeah.
So that's the third. The fourth is the image. Now that image there, you can see there's a big spoon. But it's not a shovel type thing. So that's talking about medicine. But you can also see that everything's not in the spoon. Something's being left out. So you can go into great detail with the image as well. And then you have the affirmation. And I've written the affirmations down the bottom there. And so you can ask for an affirmation. You can work with that affirmation. But there's the message. You don't even have to think about what the message is, but you can expand on it if you want to. And when I pull, say, 3 of these out, I'll join all those messages up and they'll come as a story. Then you have the numerology number, because not everyone, lots of people said, oh, we should put a number on that deck. So I put a number on this deck. And so the 7 ways you can just work with those words up there. Or you could say, which chakra needs healing right now, and pull a card. You could choose to just do the numerology thing with the number. I even join up the affirmations to get a story. When I say story, a message delivery, because I teach my students when they're first learning to relax and imagine you're making a story up to do with the topic, and let it flow. Don't worry about whether it's right or wrong. Just go into it, because then you're starting to open everything up and eventually it'll flow.
Katie, do you work with everyone, or do you work with spiritual healers? Do you work with people who are new on this journey? What do your courses encompass?
Anyone can
Great.
anyone can access me. I don't do the one-on-one lessons anymore, but I have all the information going online, and I'm constantly making meditations and also courses. Some of my courses are online, mini courses are free at my website that has all the courses on, and that is simply www.katy-k.thinkific, thinkific.com. And they're all on that platform because that's an easy way for me to get them all up there. And you can go there, and we're constantly putting new courses up, mini courses. Some of them are free, some of them are $29. Meditations are $10, but there's bundles where you can get 3 for $25. I've even got free meditation up there. I did a visual meditation for those people that can't focus, and they don't feel like they're meditating. So the visual meditation, I went down to the lagoon and I set up the camera, and I just started recording. A duck photobombed me. It swam across and then climbed out onto the bank, and it's so cute. And people loved this visual meditation, but one person said to me, I wish the car horns or the background noise was not in it. And I left it in there deliberately because they're supposed to shut all that out. And if they're in their home, the phone's still going to ring, the washing machine's still going, someone's going to interrupt you, the dog starts licking you, any of those things. You have to learn to shut them out. So that meditation, which is on there for free, helps you to do that. And I made a version of it with affirmations as well. So you can access all that on that website. And if you can't find it, you just go to that website there, katyk.com, and you can access the courses from there as well.
I will add all the links to the podcast show notes and the YouTube channel where this will be, everywhere. So the links will be below this video, wherever you're watching or listening. You'll be able to access all of Katy-K's amazing resources. Now, before we wrap up, it might be a good idea to share what your book is going to be about that's coming out at the end of the year.
The book I'm very excited about. I've been writing this book for longer than 10 years, and I got a publisher, and all of a sudden I had to rewrite it. Not because the publisher said so, but I've changed, my writing style's changed, I've learned even more. And so here I am picking out chapters and rewriting them. It's how to tap into your unique psychic powers. I've always said, if this is true, then prove it. And the spirit world does. So I put in the stories of proof so that you too can believe. I put in all the things that people are scared to ask, because some people do come in full on working and they don't know about grounding or protecting or clearing or any of that. You can go and buy a book this thick on psychic protection. I teach it in less than a minute. So I'm being modern. I want everything simple, streamlined, and to the point. So it's easy. I didn't want people to have it and have to go to a book. I want them just to be able to do it. I've had those readings where they keep going back to books.
Everyone has a different learning style too. So
they do.
I think if you understand your own learning style, you'll learn a lot easier if you then ingest information in that form. So, which is a reason why I do video interview, podcast interviews, because some people are auditory, some people are visual, and then some people like to read.
Yeah, all those things too. And so this book has all those things, but also I cover a lot on ley lines and synchronicity and what it means when you're coming across that, what it means on your journey as well.
What is a ley line for anyone that's listening?
Okay, ley lines can't be seen, but you can Google and see where they are. I believe there's a lot that haven't been charted as yet. They're energy centers. I want you to imagine that you are a computer and you ask the spirit world, you want to get stronger and you ask for an upgrade, And when you stand on a ley line, software comes in. But if you've got a Commodore 64 or an iPhone 1 and you're trying to download the latest, it won't do it. It can't do it. The computer cannot take in that software. And so there's a lot of different ley lines in different areas, and they can be under roads, they can be anywhere, where you might stop and stand for a little bit or get delayed or held up, and you're getting these ley lines. And once you get used to it, you get to feel when it's happening. But if you try to overload the computer, you will get ill, shut down. And I've proven that many times, and I've gotten smarter with it now. The main thing is, if I don't look after this body, so I don't drink unless it's a celebration. I just don't feel the need to. And because I'm so clairsentient, I'm called what they call a two-pot screamer. So it's not good. I just don't do it. And I make sure that I'm doing exercise all the time so I can release energy and cleanse and clear and all those things and keep this computer in good shape. And I prepare when I'm going to get an energy intake. And in the past, I haven't. I've been on a cruise and I've been having a whale of a time and all the rest of it. Gone to a Hong Kong chapel and asked for an upgrade and end up sick for 3 days. So I go into things like that. I also go into, make people develop trust and how they can trust themselves and their gifts and what they need to do, how to get started. I give them evidence and also, make them more confident no matter what level you're at or what you're doing. That is your gift. It can always go further. You're not just stuck with it, but you don't compare and you just keep going. It's not a race. You don't have to get there before everyone else. There is no there. It is just going to keep evolving and going. And you need to honor the gift that you have. And you don't need to have a bloodline or gene pool. I've got on both sides of mine. It's just everywhere. But you don't need that. I didn't even knowingly access mine after I shut down for quite a time. And then when it was coming back, I even kept it a secret from my husband. Because my mother would say, I'm psychic. And he'd go, psycho, like that. Because he was a skeptic. He didn't believe.
Yeah.
And he's that person, I have to see it to believe it, because he was a policeman.
And that's perfectly okay, isn't it?
It's perfectly okay. I made it work and then I got busted. And that's in the book as well. And I used to put information into conversations and let the person think that they'd told me. And say, oh, yeah, when you were saying that, it'd be good if you did this, probably. And sometimes I get busted and the person saying, no one else knows that except me.
Yeah.
And that was before I knew you don't look unless you're asked.
Yeah.
So there's so much in there that you can learn, and it keeps going. My editor is actually not of woohoo, as I call it. He's a skeptic, but he's loving reading the book. And now we're talking about the second book, which is The Modern Oracle, My Crazy Psychic Life. And it has all those stories in there that keep happening when you're psychic. So you can read them and go, that's happened to me. I must be this part of my journey, or that's happened to me. So the first book tells you on your journey, it's not unusual to see this, this, and this, and this. And then the second book is more light-hearted and it covers things. I've had episodes where I'm teaching someone on Skype and they're not used to Skype, and you start off with the ceiling and then you're back there. And all of a sudden their naked husband walks behind and bends over to get clothes out of a washing basket. Those things are always happening. And, we have a laugh. We don't take it seriously. And I never name names because I have to be like a doctor. Tell no one.
Yes.
So please.
Can I share with you as something that happened to me yesterday, which was the universe trying to knock me on the head with sending me a sign and a message. So I was taking my daughter to school, and generally would take me half-hour round trip, drop her off and come back. For whatever reason yesterday, and we don't live in the city, we live near the beach, it took me about 40 minutes to get her there. And then we were in a traffic jam, which never happens on the Sunshine Coast. And then by the time, and then I was on my way back and there was another traffic jam on the way back. So I was like, okay, you're getting asked to slow down here.
Yeah.
But I didn't take it seriously. And then I'm on the freeway portion coming home, and this ute before me has a ladder on the top of it.
Ooh.
The ladder wasn't tied on.
Oh, no.
And then next minute, this ladder comes flying off the ute towards me, and I got it. And I just hit the brakes, checked that there wasn't anyone behind me. And I was like, thank you. I get the message. Thank you. I'm going to slow down.
Yeah.
And just be in the moment.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example. And luckily, you have quick reflexes, you're focused,
yes,
and you were able to prevent something happening. I've seen people that have been held up in lots of areas, and if they'd been any earlier, they would have been in the car accident they're now passing.
Yes.
The spirit world will look after you. And I teach how you can, ask for that protection, and how you can protect your car, and how you can ask them to find car parks. And, most people think, oh, I'm not going to ask that. That's too trivial for them. Well, they want to help. They're there.
Yes. And the thing is, we can do this in every moment of our life. And this is what I teach about now. It doesn't have to be about the holiday or the, health is a big one, understandably. Finances is a big one. But from moment to moment, we can tune in, and it can be the little things that help us shift and transform in the most amazing way.
Kaye, that is so truthful, and you are so wise. That really, I would have loved everyone to hear that, because that is how it is.
Yeah. And I think because no matter where we are in our life, we can transform our life in the way that we want it to. And like you said before, it's not about comparing ourselves, because really we want to be manifesting into our lives our heart's desires, and our heart's desires are unique and individual to each and every one of us. So if we can just honor that, and that will help us to stop looking at what everybody else is doing. And am I keeping up? Am I where I'm supposed to be? Because you shared a beautiful example of plumbers and being different people who have different specialties in their trade. And even now, you are so much more experienced than I am. We are in the similar industry.
No,
but you know what I'm saying? We're on a different journey. We're on our own journeys, and we don't compare ourselves to each other. We trust that whatever's meant to come through is meant to come through.
You have amazing gifts.
Oh, thank you.
And life is a series of decisions. You can have two children come from the same parents, have the same lifestyle, and go in different directions when they start making their own decisions.
Yes.
And you can't compare. They're two different individuals.
Yep.
Some might do really well and some won't. It's about being aware when the door of opportunity opens. And I help them find those doors of opportunity.
That's brilliant. And so I want to thank you. It was wonderful, wonderful listening to you share your wisdom. And I know it's just the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more I can tell. I think I'm going to invite you back on to talk about more things, and universe will let me know when. In the meantime, thank you so much, Katy-K. All the information is here for you if you would love to. I highly recommend you go out and check out Katy-K's. You have videos, you have interviews, you have your website.
I've got my decks, which are at katyk.com as well. And I've got a spiritual psychic enhancing oil, which goes to many full moons and special moons and super moons, and it takes months to prepare, because I put on all different crystals as well to energetically charge it. So there's a lot of things, but get ready for my book when it comes out as well, because it is going to be an ebook and print to order, so it can get to people in Europe or anywhere. Great idea.
Thank you so much for the work that you're doing. You're an amazing soul, and you can see that and feel that through the screen. I'm so honoured and blessed to have had the opportunity to talk to you today, Katy-K.
Well, I feel honoured that you asked me, and I've had a good time, and I loved working with you. You're just so bright and positive as well, which is really lovely, because when you feel energy, you know, the person that's interviewing you needs to be accepting as well. And you are totally open to it. And that's wonderful too. And I'm sure many viewers will be open to it too.
I
And
hope so. I hope if you are listening, you know, that you listen with a open heart and a open mind, because we're always learning for everyone that we come into contact with on a moment to moment basis.
we do. I also, on my on Facebook under the Modern Oracle, once a month on a Saturday or Sunday at 4 p.m. It's always shown on the Facebook page. We advertise it. I do free readings. So you come on and if you ask a question, I'll answer it. But if you just say hello or you want guidance, I will actually choose a card from this deck and I'll read it out. So this card here for you now says, fun times ahead, release your creative side and enjoy yourself. Fill your life with healing colour. Your affirmation is, I am creative and will allow myself to express my creativity without limitation.
Yes, isn't that exciting?
Yes, so there's the card, and you can see there, you can use the number 3. And if you don't know numbers, you can go to the little book and you can look at number on page 14. Number 3 is about creating joy, celebrations, and communication, which is exactly what you do.
Yeah.
And number 3, because I love the law of attraction, so I've put 2 lots of numbers in this little book. It is chase your dreams.
Thank you.
Now I can then go to Mandarin and Tangerine. I'll put them in together because they have very much the same healing benefits. And you'll find in the book the healing benefits of that oil.
And it's my favorite color too.
Yep.
Orange.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So it'll tell you everything. It's antimicrobial, it calms and soothes the nervous system, supports lymphatic system, supports digestion and immune system health, helps improve appearance of skin and uplifting. I had to put it into dictionary terms so that it would be accepted in the USA because of their strong rules. You can't say anything does something. So I can't go, eucalyptus oil will repel rats. Blue tansy keeps cockroaches away. I keep threatening my sister, I want to make a truth book, you know, of all the things these oils can do. But I'm sure many people are doing that, and I've got lots of other things to do. But that's yours today. So fun times ahead for you.
Yeah, I can feel it. And I'm very excited. And just, you know, I'm just rolling with it. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for today.
You're welcome.